It's a pleasure to welcome you to this edition of NAFDAC and Your Health, that TV program that gives you updates on the activities of NAFDAC geared towards safeguarding the health of the nation. I am your regular host, Amanda Ugo. On today's episode of NAFDAC and Your Health, our focus is on how NAFDAC constantly engages associations, groups, law enforcement agencies, policymakers and other stakeholders in deliberations to ensure that they are carried along in the agency's regulatory initiatives. The first segment will basically focus on highlights of the stakeholders engagement meeting held with the stakeholders in the pharmaceutical industry in Lagos to address the issue of substandard and falsified medicines, while the second segment will focus on another of such meetings held in Abuja. The mandate of NAFDAC to safeguard the health of the Nigerian people has seen the regulatory agency working so hard, formulating policies and adopting the best strategies to ensure that everything that can endanger the well-being of the Nigerian populace are confronted and subdued. Part of these strategies is working with the relevant stakeholders and carrying them along in the agency's programs and policies. This is why NAFDAC constantly organizes stakeholders' engagement to deliberate and address issues of concern. And apart from bringing about harmonious interaction between NAFDAC and its stakeholders, it also to a very large extent helps the agency to achieve great results in its regulatory operation. In keeping up with the trend, NAFDAC recently held a stakeholders meeting with pharmaceutical supply chain stakeholders at the agency's office complex in Lagos to deliberate on modalities to curb or totally eliminate the menace of substandard and falsified medicines in the pharmaceutical supply chain. Before the meeting, the agency had sent out the National Substandard and Falsified Medicine Action Plan to the stakeholders to digest. In her opening remark at the meeting, the Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, again explained the reason for the meeting and the dangers being posed by substandard and falsified medicine.
The high prevalence of SF in Africa is a major threat to public health. This is because regulation in the region is limited, with about 10% of African NRAs having achieved ML3. It's limited because we still have 90% of us not having the capacity or the capability. This allows for poorly regulated manufacturers to supply their products in Africa, where technologies to detect SFs and track and trace are limited. An example is Gambia. Over 66 children died. The menace of substandard and falsified medicinal products threatens access to safe, efficacious, and affordable medicines, undermining health systems and the achievement of universal health coverage globally. NAFDAC has the mandate to regulate and control the manufacture, importation, exportation, distribution, advertisement, sale, and use of drugs, cosmetics, chemicals, detergents, medical devices, and packaged water. Generally, we call these regulated products. This mandate puts a burden on the agency to lead the fight against substandard medicinal products in Nigeria and support efforts that will see a reduction in the prevalence of SFs, both locally, from local manufacturers, and from importation. I wish PCN is here, because NAFDAC is not the only regulatory agency in terms of substandard falsified medicines. PCN maybe has more to do, and we are very friendly agencies, sister agencies, but we have to do this fight together.
The NAFDAC DG went on to enumerate steps being taken by the agency to curtail the menace of substandard and falsified medicine along the supply chain.
This fight against substandard falsified products is based on three broad thematic areas: prevent, detect, and respond. We are not just going on the street to look for substandard falsified medicines. We go after products that have been approved that are coming from Southeast Asia. 70% or thereabout of our products come from outside. So we have a pre-shipment testing scheme that have stopped over 124 products that we approved from coming in. Some of them do not have content. Some of them will not disintegrate. Some of them will not dissolute. Some of them will have wrong labeling and all sorts of things. We are dealing with that now with WHO. Most of them have fake certificate of pharmaceutical product. And it takes two to tango. It's not just India brushing things to us. It is us conniving with them. It is us, Nigerians, conniving with them to bring in cheap products at the detriment of lives in Nigeria. Over 124 shipments have been stopped. And these are products that have been approved that could have been in our circulation for 5 years. So if 10 containers per year for one particular product, or 2 containers per year, you can figure that out. So we go at the source, or we go to the source to stop as many as we can stop from coming in. Now we have another regulatory directive. Your product is as good as the raw materials. Now, if for those that are going to be registering new products, if you don't have your raw materials from approved source, WHO pre-qualified sources, FDA or stringent regulatory authorities qualified sources, we will not register the products. The pharmaceutical supply chain plays a vital role in ensuring that safe, quality, and efficacious medicines reach the users. In addition to what I just said, we have the track and trace, the traceability system, where we use barcoding to track the movement of products in the country. It's a 5-year strategy. We use that for all vaccines that came into the country. And we use that mechanism to recall a product whose one of the batches was bad. And within 2 days, we got those vaccines back to Abuja. We are using the same system now to track and trace narcotics. And we have been successful to use it for Schedule 1 narcotic drugs, that is for public, from the Ministry of Health. Why? Because our mission is to safeguard the health of our people. So there isn't a lot that we can do that we say is too much. No. We use detection devices that can check the content, the identification in the market. And the proliferation, that news that has been going on, is false. There is no proliferation of substandard falsified medicines. We do national survey, sampling of products using scientific methods from different parts of the country. We did that in 2021. We couldn't do it in 2020. We did that in 2022. For anti-malarials, the prevalence is about 10%. And when you talk of prevalence, that is average. So if you live very close to the border, where people come in and out, it may be higher there. But that is statistics, that is science. But the average is about 10%.
Professor Mojisola Adeyeye also reiterated the need for such engagements with NAFDAC's stakeholders.
There's a need to foster complementary partnership between our stakeholders and us, and that we seek to identify lapses in the supply chain to curb the distribution of SFs in Nigeria. I enjoin you to sustain your support to NAFDAC to ensure that only safe, efficacious, quality medicines are used in Nigeria. NAFDAC, as the regulatory agency, is seeking the support of all stakeholders in the pharma industry and supply chain system to improve our chances of winning the war on substandard medical products.
The DG therefore enjoined the stakeholders present to be free to express their minds and contribute to discussions so that solutions could be preferred to all identified challenges. Comments and questions were taken from the stakeholders, and the DG and the directors responded accordingly. At the end of the interactions, it was obvious that the stakeholders' confidence in NAFDAC had been further strengthened.
You have been watching NAFDAC and Your Health. The program is not over yet. We'll be back shortly.
NAFDAC has observed with dismay the wanton illegality of unlicensed vendors peddling drugs to unsuspecting members of the public, despite efforts aimed at tackling the menace of drug hawking. NAFDAC hereby advises the general public to desist from buying drugs from these merchants of death. Drugs sold by hawkers are fake, counterfeit, and substandard. The hawkers expose the drugs to inclement weather, which degrades their active ingredients since they are stored in conditions that render drugs poisonous. The drugs could therefore damage the liver and kidney or lead to the death of the consumer. Drug hawkers constitute threat to our national security. Hawking of drug is one of the main causes of drug abuse, as victims continue to fetch drugs from unregistered and unregulated hawkers. Consequently, drug abusers soon succumb to the dilemma of depression, personality disorders, suicidal thoughts, mental disorder, sleep problems, organ failure, damaged immune system, memory loss, anxiety, social and economic problems. NAFDAC hereby warns those involved in the nefarious act of hawking drugs to desist from this illegal act or face the wrath of the law. NAFDAC, safeguarding the health of the nation.
Welcome back. It's good to know that you're still watching NAFDAC and Your Health.
Also, in a bid to protect the lives of the Nigerian people and ensure Nigeria remains a healthy nation, NAFDAC recently had a stakeholders meeting with policymakers, regulators, enforcement officers, the Food and Drugs Department of the Ministry of Health, NDLEA, the Nigerian Immigration Service, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, Nigerian Customs, the Federal Competition and Customer Protection Commission, journalists, and other relevant stakeholders. The gathering was majorly organized to reveal the national strategic document that will help to win the war against substandard and falsified products. In her opening remark, the NAFDAC DG Professor Mojisola Adeyeye reiterated the agency's resolve to put a permanent end to the issue of substandard and falsified regulated products.
Some countries are already copying what we are doing, this pre-shipment testing. before it leaves the pot. That is one of the ways in which we fight SFs. It is a multifaceted issue globally. There's a book called Bottle of Lies. And the person that was behind the writing of that book is from Southeast Asia too. And in that book, they highlighted the fact that some manufacturers will manufacture for the so-called stringent regulatory countries. And the same line, they will use another line for Africa. We are going to put a stop to it. That is part of why we are very stringent now, more stringent than ever, in terms of our regulatory inspection. No cutting of corners. What you see is what you see. We have blacklisted many companies. We have sanctioned them that you will never imagine how much we sanction them. Because we want people to respect our own people. Trade is a mutual agreement. If that mutual agreement is harming one part of the two-way agreement or arrangement, we will stop it. That is one of the reasons why we started 5+5. So the products that have been being imported forever, which we have capacity to manufacture, we will no longer import them. And that is working now. When we do renewal, we find out whether those products are part of 5+5 scheme, and we remove them from being imported, because local manufacturing is access, local manufacturing is assurance of quality. If a company is if it has a bad or is suspected to be compromising, in 2 hours we will be there. In 2 hours we will be there. Does that mean we're going to import everything? No. It is that we turn it around. 70% local, 30% import. That is one of the ways to fight substandard falsified medicines.
NAFDAC will continue to explore ways through which it can liaise, collaborate, and have engagements with agencies, groups, and associations, both locally and internationally, to ensure that it optimally delivers on its mandate to the utmost benefit of the Nigerian people.
I hope you have been enlightened and informed. Next week's edition promises to be more enlightening and informative. Meanwhile, if you have any information for us on activities of peddlers of unwholesome food products, drugs, and fake cosmetics, please do not fail to reach out to us.
You can reach NAFDAC via toll-free numbers. For inquiries, call 0700 162 3322. For complaints, call 0800 162 3322. You may also email NAFDAC at nafdac.gov.ng. If you have complaints about any form of misconduct, you can reach the Reforms Unit via email, reforms@nafdac.gov.ng, or call the Reforms hotlines on 0909 763 0506 or 0909 763 0507. NAFDAC, customer focused, agency minded.
Please note, it is criminal to import, produce, distribute, or sell unwholesome food products, fake drugs, or unapproved medical equipment. Please report these heinous activities to NAFDAC to help the agency safeguard the health of Nigerians. We'll meet again next week. Stay safe.